10th of September and this is my first trip up to the farm to check on these 15 hives just to see how they went over winter and to see whether I've lost any. So I can happily report that of all the 15 hives, they have all overwintered really well. There was only one hive, this little one down here, that wasn't going too well at the end of summer. It was very light on going into winter, and I was really expecting to lose that hive because they had hardly any stores. But to my pleasant surprise, there's not a lot of activity compared to the other hives, but there's certainly some good strong comings and goings from that hive number 3. So I'll check them out. I might need to put them in a smaller box until they really kick off again this spring, or just see what's going on with them. But of the other hives, they've all overwintered really well. They're a little bit cranky because I've just gone around with the clippers and cleared all the new grass that's been growing around the entrance, so they're a little bit unhappy. But as you can see, they are all really strong. This one's a little bit quiet, so I might have to just check on that one, see what's going on there. But all the other hives seem to be doing really well, so I'm hopeful that with a good flow of honey on the jar and the carry around here, that it won't be long and we'll be getting some honey that we can take off these. But obviously, first of all, I'm going to have to come and do some splits on these so that they don't swarm, and also increase my hive numbers. This is a hive that's obviously been knocked over since I was out here and did my last check, and it gives you a bit of a hint as to why it's a good idea to strap your hives together, because this hive, it's been a few months, it's been winter, and I've just come back to do this spring check. Now this hive's been knocked over most probably by the cattle in the paddock, and as long as the boxes are all tightly strapped together and it doesn't come apart, you know what, the bees are quite adaptable. So even though their hive is now on a different angle, they're quite happy. They're still in there. The hive still looks very busy. So the main thing is, you know, they will survive. They're very adaptable, but obviously we want to get this hive the right way up so that as they start producing more comb, that it's actually at the right angle, because now the side of the box is upwards, so they're going to modify the way they build their comb so that the comb is vertical to the horizontal. So they're adaptable, but good idea to strap the boxes. But we do need to get these girls the right way up so that they know which way is up and which way is down. And then we'll go into this hive in another week or so, do our first spring inspection when it's a little bit warmer, and take out some frames of brood, swap them over so they've got some fresh frames for the queen to lay some fresh brood in. This box didn't get quite pushed over by the cattle, or even the wind could have pushed it forward, but that's a sort of note to self. Always secure the bottom board, maybe with just a few screws. The bottom board's been pushed sideways. Now the bees aren't going to really care. Again, I've strapped the box, that's the most important thing, so the lid and the boxes don't come apart, because then you've got a real issue of the bees getting cold or just absconding if they don't like that open air living. This is not quite so much of an issue because the bees are quite adaptable. You know, they've got another entrance, they don't really care. But I will loosen that strap off and slide that box back just so they've got the one entrance at the front, which they're supposed to have. And in actual fact, because the grass has grown here, they're actually not even using that entrance anymore. They've given up on that one and they've found a much better entrance. So I just need to slide this box back onto its base properly, and they'll be a little bit disorientated for a while because obviously the back door's become the front door and the front door's not being used. So once I slide this bottom board back on, there is going to be a little bit of a flurry of activity around this area, but they will soon figure out that the front door's back around the other side of the box, and they'll soon settle and start using the proper front entrance. But another good reason why it's good to strap the boxes, particularly in high wind areas or in paddocks where you've got cattle and sheep that are likely to bump these hives and potentially knock them over. So these girls are going really well, and it's interesting, this hive, you can see that most of the other hives, they're just coming and going, but this hive, they're actually fanning. And the reason why I've got so many girls at the front here fanning is that this was one of the hives that got tipped over. So it was actually tipped back and it was sitting back here. Now I've straightened it up and moved it forward a smidge. So what these girls are doing, they're notifying the other bees that are returning from foraging where the entrance is, because obviously the entrance has shifted. So these girls are actually fanning some pheromone. So you can see the last tip of their abdomen is tilted down, and you can see the Nasonov gland, that little white bit there. Now these girls are fanning the pheromone to tell all the foraging bees that are returning where the new entrance is. So they're very clever. So that way these bees that are milling around here, and you can see there's quite a few, will slowly get the scent of that pheromone, and that will guide them, which it is, and they're slowly making their way to where the entrance is. So as long as you don't move the hive too far, they will follow that pheromone scent and find the entrance and work their way into the hive. I just had a closer look at this hive number 13 where there was no activity, and I have to revise that. Out of the 15 hives, it looks as though I have lost one. There's the odd bee coming and going, but it could be that they are robbing that hive out rather than coming home. And there's a mouse, keeps poking his head out. There he is, look at him. Oh, cheeky little bugger. So there's a mouse that's taken up residence in the hive, and when you tip the hive over and have a look underneath, apart from finding a mouse, there's actually lots of dead bees. So I'm not too sure what's happened to this hive, but it's clearly failed for some reason. But what I can do is, because I've got quite accurate records of all my hives, that's why they're numbered, so that I can go back and write up notes for every hive once I've inspected it, and just jot down how the hive's going, the weight of the hive, the activity, the weather, what the temperament of the bees were. That gives me a good indicator. So it'll be good to go back to my notes and see how hive number 13 was tracking towards the end of summer, and why possibly it's not survived over winter. But anyway, I'll check on the records, and that might give me a clue as to why it didn't quite survive. But certainly all the other hives are going really strong, so that's good. One hive loss out of 15 I think is pretty good, considering a lot of other beekeepers I speak to lose a lot more hives than that when they overwinter.